New day, sun is shining. Still bloody cold, but the sun is shining. Fuel system today. So, got some jobs to do. Going to need to finish off wiring up this fuse panel. Relay for each pump. There's 3 pumps in total. Got the in-tank pump, which will run on its own relay. And there's 2 stages of pumps in the main fuel pump, which is buried under all of this shit, which I'll dig out in a moment. I want to be able to control them all independently, so I can trigger the in-tank pump to fill the swirl pot manually if I need to. But that's the goal for today. Okay, I've cleaned out the boot. Just shuffled all of the crap that was in here into the back seat for now, just to show where I'm at, what I've done and what needs to be done. Obviously, this earth was temporary. It's just something I had left over from the car audio days that I've just cleaned the spot and popped in for now. But I'm not going to leave that, it's ridiculously long. I'll probably just use a bit of strapping and come down and clean up a bolt here. I think that'll be adequate for what I need. The fuel pump setup itself, I've got one of these AI tanks, and underneath it's one of those Holly dual pump doodads. Got a filter hanging out of the outlet of the pump, and I've terminated with a DTP Deutschwerks connector. Not Deutschwerks, Deutsch connector. I need to finish off this wiring. That's the one that goes to the pumps. That's the one that signals the pumps. That's coming along the body loom with everything else that I've already done. So I need to pin that into the relay panel. I need to get another relay. I need to put an eyelet on all of these main power feeds. There's a few things to do there. Also the hoses. The hoses that are underneath here that connect from the normal fuel pump and it run through bulkhead fittings in here. They're not connected, so that will need to be done. I need to work out which one's which. Yeah, there's a bit to do. Might give this a little blowout. It's full of dust and swarf and shit, so I'll do that first. Okay, I just popped out a little bit of paint in here. There's a bit of rust, and it's not perfect, but I don't really care. Like, obviously, this little bracket here is not factory for anyone who knows Volvos. I just drilled some holes, put some bolts through. It lines up with the bumper, so the holes behind the bumper. It'll rust through eventually, but I don't care. It's fine. A little bit of rust isn't going to hurt anybody. I've just pulled the pump out just to show you what this thing is. So this is an AI tank, which I don't think are available anymore. I think it's a 2 litre or a 1.5 litre surge tank. It's all got -8 fittings on it. It is designed to work with this Holly pump. I don't know if this is an 18 or whatever. It's more than enough for what I need, and I got it really cheap because I was going to use it on another car. It's probably too good for this project, but it'll do the job. This is obviously upside down at the moment. You can see it's got a little sump, and then it feeds both of these pumps. So these are independently wired, so I can have one running and not the other, and that should still work. So that way I won't have to run both the pumps when I'm like idling and stuff, because it's just going to heat up the fuel and make more noise. So what I'm intending to do is I'm going to use a hob switch, which is a pressure activated switch, which I've got set for 5 psi. So as soon as my intake manifold pressure exceeds 5 psi, implying that I'm on boost, it will trigger a relay that will run the second pump. My father also made a little circuit that will allow it to run on a little bit, and the idea will be, back when I actually made for a previous car that was manual, and the idea was that it will keep the pump running for 30 seconds even if it dropped below 5 psi again, just in case, like if I was changing through gears. So I'm going to run that same circuit because it just makes sense to have it. It doesn't hurt anything. If it has to run 30 seconds after the fact, it's not going to change my fuel pressure. The regulator will still keep up. But that's the idea. So I'm just going to finish off the wiring, and Shed Dog is here. Where are you? Yeah, Shed Dog, good. Yep, very graceful. Finish off the wiring of that. I'll get this relay panel out in a minute, and we'll start looking at what I need to do there. Okay, it's all starting to come back to me now. So, obviously, it's taken me a long time to do this project because of the life commitments that get in the way and deprioritise things. But I remember where I've left this at now. So, that's the factory. Come on, son, work with me, not against me. Those are the factory barbs off the factory tank. I did change the pump in here. It's running a VL Turbo Commodore pump in there now, which is the same physical size, just for a bit more flow to fill up the surge tank. So I need to connect hoses to these two barbs. The bigger one from memory is the feed. That will run down underneath the car there and then loop back through one of these two fittings here. There's two there, it's hard to see. One of these two fittings, which will run into the surge tank. The other one of those, probably the top one, will loop back into the smaller bulb there. So that'll just be a closed loop that runs whenever the pump in here is powered, which should be all the time really. The other two, one of these will be pressure to the fuel rail and the other one will be return from the fuel rail. So I think that's a return one and that's a pressure one over there. But I'll just have to make sure that the lines connected to the other side of those bulkheads are as I expect them to be. Now, as far as wiring goes, we have 4 wires in this plug. We've got the grey one, which is the fuel tank level sensor, which will be connected up to the cluster. Yellow with the red stripe is the factory in-tank pump, and the white ones are the power pumps. Doesn't matter which one's which as long as one goes, so I've let them the same colour because it doesn't really make a difference. That will then run into the trigger side of these relays. As I said, I've got to add the third relay back to here because I ran out. I'm just going to steal one of the headlight relays for now so I can finish the job. But there'll be a plug that runs into here that trigger those 3 relays and one that just bypasses straight through and connects to the fuel level sensor here. These are the 3 wires from the tank. Grey one is a fuel level sensor. Brown one I'm going to assume is power to the pump, and black one I'm going to assume is earth. I will check that later, but that is what would make sense to me. And the other main plug, which is this one, which I talked about earlier, is the DTP Deutsch plug, which will power the big pumps. 4 wires here, again very simple. Blue is one pump power, red is the other pump power. The blacks are going to be earthed, and I'm pretty sure I already put an eyelet on them. I did, which will connect up to the factory earth spot that I've cleaned up here. So I just need to correct the length of these wires, work out which are the power feeds, which again I'm going to assume is the really big ones. I did this a while ago, I can't remember, but that's what my brain would have done, I imagine. I'd say those 3 there are triggering those 3 relays. Get the length right and just crimp a big lug onto those. Put a plug on for the rest of it and just logic test it on the bench. And then we should be right. That's the power side of things. I might do that while this paint's drying because it's pretty stinky in here and I can't really go around touching all this shit without getting paint everywhere. So I'll do the wiring first. Okay, got distracted onto something else. This is the earth strap I think I'm going to use. I found this laying around in my shed. I imagine this is one that Andy bought with intention of using on his car and didn't for whatever reason. It's just one of those exposed wire earth straps with a cover over it. It's also got one of these clamps on it, which I'm imagining is to measure current. I don't have anything that can read that, but I'm going to leave it on there only because it's too hard to get it off. It's a completely sealed thing. They may have put it on there before they crimped it. I don't intend on re-crimping this because the factory crimps are going to be better than anything I can do, but I'm going to cut off this little tab just because it's not going to work for me. So I'm just going to lop that off and then I'll install this, and that should have the earth part out of the way. Done. Chop that off. The brass. Also had a bit of a clean up, ready to go. Things were getting a bit messy in here. I tend to get right into the swing of things and then tools end up everywhere. So there's that strap. Goes in there. It's a little bit too long, but that's fine. It makes it easier to take it off the battery if I ever needed to. Clean up the paint, bolted it down nice and firm. That will be good. So next part is this. Over to the bench we go. I'll start dissecting this, work out what I've done, and yeah, do some more video updates momentarily. It's amazing how much you learn in a short period of time. I wired up this fuse panel maybe 5 or 6 months ago, and looking back on the work now, I've crimped most of these terminals incorrectly. They're not holding the terminal on, like this one pulled straight off, which is not good. You'll also see I've twisted that. You should never twist it when crimping on a terminal. I'm going to go through and re-crimp the ones that aren't passing the tug test. I've got 2 different sizes of terminal here, which will be very hard to see on camera, but that one there is for a smaller gauge wire, and that one there is for a larger gauge wire. You can see the tangs are much taller. They're both locking style, so they both will work in this particular fuse panel. So I will chop off a little bit of wire, keep it nice and straight, the right length, and re-crimp it. And yeah, try and work out what I've done and anything else that might be a little bit dodgy. Okay, that's much better now. So I've just re-crimped some of the smaller wires that are coming out. The big ones are they're no problem at all. So, and I've just changed a couple of the wire colours as well, just so they're all unique. I've drawn a little wiring map just so I know what's going on, but it's pretty simple. So the green wire will be power to the in-tank pump, and it's triggered by the yellow wire. The blue wire is first pump, triggered by the white with the blue stripe. And the red wire, yes, there's a few, it's only one of this size though. The red wire is triggered with the green wire with the red stripe. So that's that. There's also an earth that comes out, which is your negative for your relays, which I'll just strap to the body somewhere. And that's that. Alright, tidied up some more wiring. These are the three that go to the in-tank pump. So we're going to have earth, power for the pump, and the feedback from the level sensor. I've kept that the same colour. That doesn't actually connect to the fuse panel, it just runs through and then out to over here, because that's got to go back to the body of the car. So they've got my 3 pump triggers here, which are documented here. I'm going to use a Deutsch 3-pin connector for that, and I was going to use a 4-pin connector for this, because smart me already terminated that in there with a DT 4-pin, and then I put the male part of that connector in a safe place so I wouldn't use it or anything else, and it's gone now and I don't have any left. I've only got 6-pin ones left, so I'm going to have to put a 6-pin in there, or 2 2-pins, but I think I prefer to use a 6-pin. And yeah, that's going to suck, but yeah, that's alright. The pins will still work, so I'll just have to pop the pins out and put them in another body. If I find a 4-pin later, I'll change it over, or I'll get one ordered, but yep, I'm just going to pin those up now and then wrap it, and then we'll do a test fit. Okay, get in there. I have changed this plug now for a 6-pin plug and put 2 blanks in there just to get the moisture out. Not that it really matters, it's inside the car, but you know, I've got the plugs, got the blanks, so I may as well use them. This is the loom as it sits. So we've got, this is the 3-pin that runs off to the tank. It's all pinned up. We've got them all wrapped up. Industry standard fleece tape as usual. 6-pin here to connect to the trigger from the front of the car. Main earth, which connects to there. And we've got the 4-pin DTP for the other pumps. So I've also pinned that one. Same thing, 3-pin. All good. I just need to connect the hoses up now and should be ready to start pushing some fluids around, I think. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, some more progress to show. I've connected up the fuel lines that run down. They run down beside the tank here in the rail, and then they'll connect up to the bulkheads there. So I've got it so the top one will be return and the bottom one will be feed, and they go into the tank in the equivalent. So bottom to bottom, top to top, this will flow back to the tank when the swell pod is full. So I've just got to get under the car and connect them up now and just give them a nip. And then what I might try and do is I might just fill the main tank and manually trigger that pump and see what it does. Could be interesting. Alright, update time. There's about 5 litres of fuel on the shed floor now, which I've mostly cleaned up. I'm wearing most of it on my jacket as well, so that's good. The in-tank pump works, which is great. I just hot wired that to run, just triggered the relay from here, straight to 12 volt, activated that relay pump from here into the swell pot, and before the swell pot got full, it came out of that hose, which I forgot I have not connected to the regulator, not the regulator, the flex fuel sensor under the car. So it then decided to try and siphon my tank from that right through. So I disconnected the pump, the power to the pump, but the fuel kept flowing. So I had to shimmy my fat ass under the car and plug the hose with my thumb so it would stop siphoning, which was good. It's good fun. It smells in here now. I'm going to put the car back up on the hoist and connect that hose, and we'll try it again. Alright, the hose is done up now. So these are the ones I was talking about before. That comes from the tank. That's returned to the tank. These two go to the rail. So the bottom one is the return from the rail. Top one's a feed. This is the one that filled, and it runs in there, and it was not connected there to my flex fuel sensor, which is on the standard Volvo bracket, just rubber isolated there, so the vibrations don't disturb it. But that was hanging off because I hadn't put a terminal on there. I needed a 30, which I've obviously got now. But yeah, all right, let's try this again. Okay, test time. I've got all 3 relays, all 3 fuses in. I've got just a hot wire to each of the triggers in the plug, which will be provided 12 volts from the computer or from the hob switch at some point. But right now this will do. I've pre-filled this tank by running the in-tank pump until I hear burbling out of this one. And now I've got all 3 hooked up. So there's three triggers there connected to this, which will be connected to 12 volts. When I do that, I should hear a lot of noise, and I should get pressure at the tank. Not pressure at the tank, pressure at the rails. I haven't dialed in the regulator yet, so that'll be the next job when I see what it comes up with at a flat run. Let's give this a go. Noise is good. Plenty noisy enough. There's a little drip there. I'll have to come back to that. See what we're getting as far as pressure goes. Nothing's leaking. Pressure's sitting at about 63. Don't see anything leaking though, which is good. Certainly noisy, but I don't imagine I'll hear that over the engine, so alright, I'll go sort that leak out and dial that pressure in. Okay, those fittings are tight now. They were only finger tight, so I was surprised that they're actually holding pressure at all, but it shows how good those AN fittings are. I'm just going to hotwire 2 pumps for now. So there's just one of the big Holly ones and the in-tank pump. And I'm just flashing in a tune revision that mate sent me. So that's done. And turn the key off. I'm going to try and do a start in a second. Not going to run it for long though, because I haven't been able to validate that fuel pressure is coming through just yet. So it's just going to be a quick run just to see if it will start on fuel. And yeah, we'll go from there and see what it does. Okay, just put the air intake part of the pipe on because I need it for air intake temperature sensor. Try to stop this shit shorting out everywhere. Pumps, go. No, okay. Go better. Yep. Good. Still no leaks. Holding pressure, looking good. Extinguisher's there. Alright, let's turn the key, see what happens. It's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, awesome. It runs. Okay. Tune obviously needs a bit of work. Got no idea where the fueling's at, but hey, let's fire this up again, see what it does. last video of the day, and then I'm going in for the night. I've put the front of the turbo on. There's no intercooler connected at the moment because it's full of dirt, and I don't want to load that into the engine, so intake pipe is just sitting there. So I've got the reference for intake air temp. Nothing connected at that end. I've got the full exhaust in. The wideband is not connected. So full exhaust goes right through. It's a single 3-inch. Yes, I know it's restrictive, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. With a little sneaky tip on the end. So, now will be the volume test to see what it's going to be like. There we go. That's how it runs. One more go. No, that's alright. That's all for today.